Hi there, this is Sheena Rowlands and today I'm sharing with you a layout for Paige Evans for her 36 cut file stitching bundle, and I'm very honoured to be a guest designer for her and doing a couple of layouts for this bundle of cut files. So I've got this Stars for Stitching and I know the paper that I want to use, and I've just printed it out on a piece of copy paper just for me to have a think of how I actually want to stitch it. So I'm just drawing on it in pencil. So obviously you can go around the stars and just go around the edges, or maybe you could go and use long stitches across the points, which kind of leaves a little bit of a hexagon in the centre. And I quite like the way that looks too, because actually on the face of it there are different ways to sew cut files. I mean, these cut files were designed specifically for stitching, so they're actual holes that it produces when you cut it, not dashes. But I quite like the design I'm drawing now, where you do random lines across the stars in any old order, trying to make sure there's a string coming out of every hole. So I'm just drawing it out, seeing how it looks, and I quite like that. And I'm thinking maybe I could add some sequins to the strings that are going to go across this heart, and that's my mixed tub of sequins I'm looking in there. And I just think I'll just do it on another one as well, just to think, actually, yes, that's the way I want it to look. Because once I commit and I start to cut the thread and I actually cut the cut file, I want to know exactly what I'm doing. So I've used this piece of paper here, and this is from Paige Evans' Bloom Street range, and it was paper 22. And I've actually cut the star cut file across it as it is designed. So I apologise now for my threads, but because the paper is yellows and pinks, maybe a bit peachy in the centre, I've gone through all my embroidery threads and I've picked out the colours that are appropriate. I didn't realise how much of a bit of a pickle they were in, and so I do apologise for that, but I'm just going through and I'm going to just decide. I'm not going to use all of these, but I just thought it was easier to lift them out and then I could pick what I needed. I did lift out some whites, but I don't use those at all. And off camera, I've picked some sequins out of that box, and they're all pinks and yellows as well. So I've got a needle threader and some needles. I picked the first piece of cotton. I've split it in half, so 3 strands and 3 strands. I've threaded both the needles. I think once you start to stitch, it is better to have both the needles threaded, and then you can just keep going. Now, I'm very mindful that this is pattern paper, so it's not very thick, so I don't really want to crease it. So I'm starting in the first corner and I'm going to gently sew this across. So I'm doing the random lines. I'm obviously don't want many random lines on the back, so when I go down into one hole, I'm popping back up normally 1 or 2 holes away from that. So there's not loads of strings on the back, because you don't need it because you're not going to see it. So I've already put a sequin on, and I'm going to add, I don't know, 3, 5, 7 sequins, depending on the size of the heart, just to add a little sparkle as I go along. One thing I will tell you, I always use a needle threader. I don't know whether that's to do with my dexterity or my eyesight, but I do think it makes it a little bit quicker. And I also make sure that I wash my hands a lot when I'm doing any sort of stitching like this, because particularly with the paler threads, they pick up, because you're handling them quite a bit, they seem to pick up anything off your fingers. So I'm very conscious, and also if you're getting a bit hot and bothered, that I do regularly stop and just wash my hands, cool them down, and then come back to it. I also don't cut massive lengths of cotton or embroidery thread, because sometimes I just think it's asking for trouble, because they get a little bit knotted on the back, and then you spend more time unpicking them because they do want to cause knots. And now and again I actually just let the needle dangle free, and just to get all of the spiralling out of the thread. Now, stitching on paper is very relaxing, or I think so, once you've got yourself in the zone and you know exactly what you're doing. When Paige asked me to be a guest designer, I was just about to go away on a holiday, and she intimated that really actually doing it on a flight would be perfect. Unfortunately, I didn't quite get my act together enough to be able to take this away with me, but I can absolutely see what she meant. Being captive on an aeroplane, I could have got a good number of hours of sewing in. Now this isn't a quick technique by any means, but I really like the end result and I hope that you do too. And generally I find I either do it in front of the TV or use an audio book so that your hands are busy and so is your brain. So I'm just having a check how I'm getting on with this one, and there's only a few holes that aren't actually filled. Then I realised that actually I would prefer to go round the outside of the star as well. So I do them in long straight stitches, and that's that first one finished. So I've got the other needle is threaded. Now what I will tell you is that as I work my way down the pattern paper, I add different colours of threads into each star. Generally I've used at least 2 different colours of threads in each star, sometimes at least 3 or 4. That's just to give a bit of a mix to go with the ombre effect of the paper really, and each star essentially ends up being slightly different from the ones next to it. And also because the lines, the threads are crossing in different ways as well, they all do look different. And that's a good thing about threading. In fact, I end up with 3 needles threaded at one stage. And there's the second one done in a slightly brighter yellow. I think you can see that there. And that is the first line. I'm not going to subject you to all of the sewing. It's a simple technique and you know what you're doing. I know where I want to put the photographs as well, so that helps. But I did actually fill in all the stars and I did add sequins to all the stars, but I put less sequins under where I wanted the photographs. Now, even though the back paper is from Bloom Street, I bring in Paige Evans' Wonders range to look for some paper to go behind the photographs. Now, I've really enjoyed sewing this layout and I don't want to cover too much of it, but I'm going to use 2 small photographs here. These are of my great niece. The blanket covering her, so the photos are of the same baby. The blanket covering her is a blanket I actually crocheted for her, and it's got stars on it, and I just thought it would be absolutely perfect to showcase these 2 photos. One was taken within hours of her being born and one was taken a few weeks later, because it was a decent sized blanket and it could still cover her when she was lying in her cot. So I backed these 2 photographs with a little bit of yellow patterned paper, and then I'm now thinking about the title. So these chipboard shapes are from the Wonders range, and it says hello there on the chipboard, and I'm just going to use the hello. I'm peeled off the sticky bit off the back, and I'm just going to raise it on a foam pad eventually when I'm happy with its position. As I say, I don't really want to cover the stars. I think they're very, very effective with their different colours. So these are some Wonders stickers, and I decided that I wanted to add a sticker to the title. So I pick the word beautiful, and I'm just going to cut that out on the background at the moment until I decide where exactly I want to stick that. So I think that's enough. I'm going to write on the back a bit more of my thoughts on this baby and the blanket that she's got in the photo, rather than add that to the front of the layout. So there's a little bit of edging there with hearts on. I do have a look at it, another sticker, and decide that in the long run I don't want to use it. I decided I don't want to mix any more shapes. That's the thought process behind it. There's so many stars in the photographs and on the background that I'm going to just not add anything else apart from that heart in the top right hand corner, just to showcase how loved she is. I prefer the pale pink. I think it blends in without standing out too much. So this is the finished layout. You can see that sparkle from the sequins. I'm really pleased with how it came together. So this is the full image, and there'll be some close-ups as well. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much, Paige, for having me as a guest designer for your 36 stitching bundle. Much appreciated, and I really had a great time. So thanks so much for watching. If you like what you see, give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you'd like, and I hope to see you here again soon. Bye for now.